Today we're getting under the hood with Demi Jenkins, a daughter, sister, women's advocate, and known by most as Peachy, a dynamic Australian performer with roots in the world of dance. Over the past decade, she has graced numerous live shows, television commercials, and films showcasing her exceptional talent and versatility. Her true passion lies in theatrical freestyle dance and choreography. Whilst Demi grew up with a strong love for dance, it was in the midst of 2019 that Demi serendipitously discovered the joy of roller skating when she treated herself to a pair of skates for her birthday. Since that moment, she has fully embraced this newfound passion. Conquering the Skate Daily 365 Challenge in 2021 allowed her to hone her skills, culminating in the birth of Peachy Skater. Demi takes immense delight in sharing this enthusiasm with the vibrant community she's connected with on social media. Wow, welcome Demi.
So nice hearing that back. I'm like, oh wow, that's me.
You have to check out Peachy Skater. She's amazing. Anyway, it's season 4, Women's March for Mental Wellness. And, I reached out to you because I thought there's got to be an amazing backstory here. So if it's okay, I'd love to get going.
Let's do it.
So Demi, I'm kind of curious, I ask all women this question, but what was that inflection point that really got you into mental wellness?
Coming from a background of dance, there's a very well-known history there that can be rooted in a lot of mental health issues, especially in the era that I went through the system of professional dance training. Just a lot of body image issues. There wasn't a lot of care taken around our mental health states. It was all about the physicality and everything we were training there. So I came through that system and really had to learn for myself how to operate in this world positively and how to empower myself into the woman I am now. And it's been a very long process of that. And I suppose my inspiration within that is that I hope that I can inspire women to find that sooner or, not have to take that long to figure that out and inspire women to find the joy in celebrating their womanhood the way I do as well.
It's interesting that you say it that way because when I watch your films, I'm like, wow, just clear the desire not just to express yourself, but the comfort in expressing yourself. So I'd like to go back a little bit in terms of your history with dance. Like, what age did you start? And share with the audience your journey, if you will.
Absolutely. I started roller skating. I started dancing when I was 7 because my next door neighbor was going to dance classes and invited me along. And I asked mum and I said, can I go to dance class? My next door neighbor, Lauren. And she said, yeah, okay. And since that day, I remember that first class so clearly. I remember just being wide-eyed, fascinated by it, and so invested. And I can't even say that energy has dropped one day since. The passion was very quick to grab me, and I've been absolutely invested in dance and everything it brings to my life ever since. And it's always been a very one-track mind of whatever I'm gonna do in life, it's gonna be involving dance and somehow. And that definitely presented itself I was a very dedicated dancer, not just disciplined, but just very committed. I wanted to be a part of every dance troupe I could be in. I wanted to do every musical. I wanted to do as many dance styles as I could, as much as I possibly could. And definitely was that kid that had way too many extracurricular activities. But I couldn't miss a class. I was sometimes arriving at class sick because I couldn't miss it. There was nothing that was going to stop me from being there. And the highlights of my year were my end of year dance concerts and any competitions I had throughout the year. And a big part of that journey with that dance school, actually, I was very nurtured in that school. It's not a very typical dance mum school that you would say. I had a really beautiful school to be nurtured in. It was all about the love of dance and not so much about competitive dance. And I think that was a really key factor into the nurturing, like the ability for me to move into a career in dance because I didn't lose my love for it in that process. A big part of that was a focus on the choreographic elements of dance. When I was younger, I was doing a lot of dance competitions, but they were rooted in choreography and creating dance rather than just the performance element. So most of my competitions when I was young was based around me creating my own pieces and putting them on stage. So I've actually been doing that since I was about 9 years old. So it's been a very long practice that I've come to this point now, and it's a full circle moment that I just make up these little bedroom my little dances in my bedroom and go out and film somewhere because it's basically what I loved to do as a kid.
But I think what's really interesting about your story, Demi, is the fact that you had a teacher who taught the love of dancing. And I just want to sit and pause with that for women. When we teach our children, when we teach each other the love of things, that's when it really can take hold. And I think so at age 9 to have that sort of inspiration. But I also think coupled with the creativity to sort of freestyle and make up your own stories, your own physical stories, which is just amazing. And so if anybody has watched Peachy Skater on, well, I'm on Instagram with her, but your films are magnificent. They're perfectly choreographed, each one staged, but not just the dance itself, but even the way you sort of dress yourself. So I want to move on and continue this journey with you. So 9, 10, you're growing up, your dance is taking hold in you. Talk about how you it sort of evolved as you grew older and, took hold in bigger and different kinds of ways. Where did you find yourself?
It never really stopped for me. I always kind of had this vision that I was going to be a dancer in some way, shape, or form. And therefore, I went through my high schooling, completing all of my exams, and went for, like the equivalent of, I don't know what the equivalent is, but in Australia, we had back then it was OP. And so I did all of the college level entry things just in case I wanted to go into something. But in my back of my head, I always knew that it was going to be dance. And then I started researching some colleges I could go to, and I found a full-time academy down in Melbourne that I decided to audition for, which was a really big deal. It was very driven by me too, because my parents were a bit like, are you sure you want to do this? They were always supportive and very encouraging, but also like were, just naturally uncertain because they hadn't been experienced the performing arts world. But I think my determination very much convinced them that I was on the right path for myself. And I moved myself down to Melbourne. I'm from Brisbane, and I moved to Melbourne at the age of 17 because I was just one track mind following that dream. And it was an incredible year of learning, but also a very shaping year in a lot of different ways. It was a very different energy to what I grew up with in the sense that I came from a very nurturing environment, and this then became very competitive and a lot of image-based criticisms and things like that. And I can definitely account a lot of what I had to unlearn from those formative years, unfortunately. And at the time, it just wasn't a practice to teach women about proper nutrition and things like that, and also to look after their mental state when it comes to rejection, because unfortunately the life of a dancer, you are walking straight into a pathway of constant rejection where we're going to, even if you're an incredible dancer, you're going to encounter a rejection at some point, and learning how to deal with that was something I had to do on the job basically rather than being prepared for that beforehand. So yeah, that was definitely like kind of heading into my early 20s and basically coming out of college. I did 2 different years. I did 2 different years at 2 different schools actually, and they were both very different, which was interesting. The first one was super strict and disciplined and quite constrictive, but I got a lot of discipline from that area. And then I went to a dance school that had a lot of freedom and a little bit more creative involvement. I had a lot of freedom to be my own style and own person, but there wasn't as much strict discipline involved, but I could take kind of the framework of what I'd had and apply it. So I kind of got the best of both worlds in a way and got to apply myself really well to the second course that I did. And that's where I sort of got to flourish and learn a whole bunch of different styles. That company ended up taking me on as a teacher, and I went into like a full-time teaching role then. So I learned a lot about dance through teaching that to a lot of young people, young adults. I taught other professionals. I taught kids. I taught various ages and styles and levels of ability. And actually, in that process, I found myself owning a dance school in North Queensland for about 6 months. I ran my own business. So that was like my early 20s kind of journey of dance. It was me stumbling, figuring it out, doing auditions, never finding quite success. I wasn't a super successful dancer early on because I kind of just thought I got out of college and I just step into a job. That's just what happens. But I didn't. And it didn't happen. And I was a little bit left of center of cookie cutter mold of a dancer. I wasn't specifically fitting into the framework that typically booked something. And yeah, it was a confusing few years of my mid-20s of me figuring out maybe this is not for me, or what am I doing? But at the end of the day, it always like I always kept coming back to that place of like, no, I love this. This is what I do, and I'm gonna figure out how to do it. The chapter change that happened for me that I feel like was a shifted gear. Sorry. It was when I turned 27, and I basically had just come off the back of a trip. I actually took a little hiatus from dance because I was burning myself out trying, and I just felt my love just like getting tested for a moment. And I thought, I'm going to take a little hiatus, and I went traveling around Australia living in a van. I had my little hippie moment, and my days turned from dance classes and performing here, performing there, auditions and dishes, to sitting on the road, sitting on a beach somewhere, journaling every day, deciding what I was going to cook for dinner, and practicing arts and crafts and learning some hula hooping is what I was interested in at the time. And I just took it down to the bare basics. And throughout that 9 months of traveling in a van, my passion and spark for dance just rebubbled and grew. And it was just this sparking energy that I was like, oh, okay, we're still there. We just needed to refuel. And I came back into the industry feeling like I was a rubber band pulled tight, ready to just go. And I really used that energy and thrust myself back into the industry again at 27, which seemed old to me. I was like, oh, this for a dancer that is an older age to be. I was definitely in auditions with 18-year-olds, and I was up against all these kids. But what I was doing was looking around and realizing what I'd learnt by this stage and what my value was, because I had gone through all these things. I'd learnt a lot about the world at this point, and I had come into my own as a woman, and I was able to see how I could apply my maturity now to my movement and how valuable that was as a mover. And I really credit my maturity in my movement to as to why that started to work for me. And eventually, a few puzzle pieces kind of aligned up, and I started booking much more work as a dancer. I started working on that, and then the lovely COVID hit like 2 years later. And so that kind of was like the end of my 20s, basically. And luckily for me, I was in a place in a city that didn't get hit too hard, and we actually had a fair bit of work still trickling through the system at the time. And that basically is when I started roller skating just before COVID. I don't know what happened. I just saw a pair of skates on Facebook one day, and I went, that looks like fun. And I always buy myself a birthday present. I always try to really like intentionally get myself something that's just fun and enjoyable, or I buy myself, I don't know, an experience to go do something, because I feel like, I know myself the best. So I've got to give myself the best birthday present I possibly can. I started roller skating, and it was a very quickly found interest. I just loved it. I felt like I described it to people once I started flowing with roller skating. It felt like an extension of my dance. I felt like, okay, suddenly I've got this extra format. It's like a new dimension added to my dancing. It feels like dancing in 4D, because not only can I move, but I can roll while I move, or I can,
Love
instead of
that.
spinning, 2 rotations, I can do 10 rotations on my roller skates, and it's the most freeing feeling. So I just fell in love with that feeling entirely.
Well, I love the journey, and I think that's, of course, amazing. As you got into the roller skating, how long did it take you to sort of take up and bring your choreography and all of that into it to create what you've created?
It accidentally birthed itself, if that makes any sense. I started the challenge that you mentioned, the 365 days of skate, and that was on January 1st of 2021. And I intended to just be practicing skills. That's all I was kind of intending to do. It wasn't really a big deal. It was just something me and my friends were doing, and we were like, great, we're all going to make our own little Instagram account that's separate, because we didn't want to fill up our previous ones. We all picked cute little skate names, because that was what you did. Like, you had your own skate title. And I actually picked the name Peaches and Scream because I was trying to go for something a bit edgy, and it wasn't available on Instagram. And then I kind of stumbled upon Peachy, and I was like, oh yeah, Peachy Skater, I suppose that'll do. Like, I didn't really think about it too much. I didn't pick it I didn't like think from a branding point of view whatsoever. It's become something that I accidentally grew into, basically. I feel like I picked that name, and then I became the person for that title. And it started off with me posting these videos daily, and it became a daily ritual. I had this daily ritual where I would go out and skate and film something. And I slowly started to fall in love with that process because I then went, what am I going to wear for this? Maybe I should think about what I'm going to wear. And I started to celebrate my own creativity, not just in the performative sense, because previously my creativity had been driven in performance and success is driven from what were you booking and where were you? And this had no pressure. There was absolutely zero pressure, no expectation of me. I was just doing this for complete enjoyment and fun. I wasn't expecting to get anything out of this. Therefore, the freedom I had within it was so just beautifully wholesome, I would say. And I remember one day just sitting at my bed deciding what outfit I was going to wear, and I was like, this is really fun. I'm having so much fun with this. And then I started involving people, like, because I had a couple followers, and I thought, oh, maybe you can pick my outfit for the day. And I started just engaging with people and getting them to help me out and coming on that journey with me. And then what ended up happening, because I was at home a lot that year because it was kind of still coming out of COVID, was I was roller skating at a park close by to me. And I started getting more and more confident to wear a little bit more eccentric items, where previously I'd felt like I very much sat in that, oh, I don't want to be too dressed up because, oh, like that's a bit scary. And then fast forward to today, if I'm not the most dressed up person in the room, I'm like, oh, I didn't try hard enough. I didn't work hard enough for that. I absolutely enjoy that energy. I'm very much an extrovert, so it's very much in my personality. But I love dressing up and expressing myself now and seeing the reaction I get from other people because they're usually quite taken back or inspired themselves to maybe do something similar. So in this moment when I was learning, I was going out every day to this park and there was people walking past me every day. And I had repeat walkers. Basically, I had people walking past who learnt who I was. I started to become known in the neighborhood as Peachy, and people would walk past and they started to follow me and they were like, Peachy, hi, we saw your videos, like keep going, you're doing really well. And I had this beautiful little like community that I started to realize physically the impact that like me being my most colorful self had on other people. And it really encouraged me to lean in, especially in a city that doesn't it isn't very fashion based. My city is not a very fashion driven city. Therefore, I do stand out on the street. I am I don't stand out in New York. I go to New York and I'm like, yes, hello world, I'm here. And everyone's like, cool. Yeah. I mean, it's still fun and people love it, but it's a world where you see a lot more eccentricity. But in my city in particular, it's quite, we're very relaxed. It's not unusual to see someone barefoot down at the shops. People don't really care about fashion. It definitely was a very bold, rebellious move for me to start dressing the way I was dressing. And I just slowly grew more and more confident in myself, and especially not. Initially, maybe I rode the back of the energy of what the clothes were giving me and what my skill was giving me and my flair. But then after a while, I started to supersede that with my confidence. My confidence was far beyond what I was wearing. It was just my door into the room, I suppose, was somebody coming over and saying, wow, I love your outfit. And then that was an access point for me to be able to practice my own confidence, expressing myself in a room where I felt seen and I felt like I could be myself. I like to say my full saturated self. That's what I felt like I've turned into, is my full saturated self.
It's wonderful that these skills sort of very naturally came together, but also your eye as a creative, if you step back and the way you think about things is really unique and really special. And so, it is bold that you did that and rebellious in your community. And what are you in London now? Where are you located these days?
I'm located in London right now, but I'm leaving in 4 days' time. I'm going to be in Rome for a week and then I'm going home for a month. So I'm very much the eternal traveler at the moment. I'm basically a digital nomad.
You bring so much joy and so much positivity. You made a comment earlier, you hope to inspire people, but it's so inspiring. I'm kind of curious. You told the story when you were younger about the dance world, if you will, and body image and stuff. How would you say you march for mental wellness?
I have been teaching a lot of workshops while I've been traveling. So I've been that's kind of been my connection with the community recently, is like teaching roller skating workshops specifically. I'd love to get into the dance community as well. I haven't quite jumped in there. There's a lot of dance teachers. There's not a whole lot of skate I mean, there is a lot of skate teachers, but not in the style that I do. So I'm quite unique in that area. So it's been a fun way to jump into it. And so it's interesting. I've been teaching my whole life, and it's very interesting to jump into a roller skating community because suddenly I'm teaching people that may have never danced in their life, and they're learning these brand new skills. They're on the journey that I was on 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm watching them fall in love with something, and it's beautiful to be a part of that. But also watching them navigate things that I navigated as an 18-year-old in the dance industry, the mental journey it takes to put yourself out there, to be bad at something before you're good at something, or to be in a class and worrying about what people think of you or how you look or how you appear. And it's something I've actually been really practicing in my classes, is to not only give them the skills and like the knowledge that I have there, but also the knowledge I've learned of how to be an artist in this cutthroat world. And it's something to be celebrated. And I just last night I was teaching a class, a roller skating class, and I was talking to everybody because I could see in the room there was certain people that were just, I could see they were getting really frustrated with themselves in the process of learning this routine that was challenging. And I basically said to them, I said, like I was talking to one girl in particular, just closely for starters, and I said, like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling like you're just feeling a bit worried about what people are thinking of you? Is that what you feel? And she's like, absolutely. I'm so in my head right now about what like I look like because I feel like I look silly. And I was like, that's really interesting because I guarantee if you ask every single person in this room where their head's at, they're probably the same place, and no one is probably looking at you whatsoever. And it's amazing how freeing that is when you realize that we're all just living in our own bubble. And it's the same thing when it comes to fashion, like when you want to be confident in fashion, most likely the thought that somebody's going to have, rather than how dare she wear that, is wow, that's so cool that she has the confidence to wear that, and that makes me feel like I could be a bit more daring. That's most likely what impression you're giving people, especially if you think about who you see in public, looking their most self. I think that's the right way to put it. It doesn't have to be this fashionista. You can be in any way, but it's like as long as you're looking your most saturated self, that's what's beautiful about it. And that might be you wearing all black, if that's your style. It doesn't have to be color. Maybe you're a chic black, you love your black fashion, and that's just gorgeous. So
Maybe.
it's. Yeah, absolutely. I see it. I see it. And yeah, it was just a beautiful moment where everyone was like, they were saying, oh, I started this class being really worried and nervous about what I was doing because I knew what you were presenting was difficult and I was worried. But I've walked out of this class not only feeling great about what I did, knowing how much I've got to work on, but feeling confident to give it a try, and that I've got the ability to show up in this space and I deserve to be here, and that I'm already doing everything I can to push myself and learn things. And that was a really beautiful circle moment of feeling, oh, okay, great. I this is like it's a very finite slice of people that I'm working with, but it's very, I think, impactful in that sense as well, especially because these mostly women, but there are some men in the classes, that these people are following me online and then coming to a class. So they're getting to know the online version of me and then getting to learn from me, which is really interesting to follow up with, because the feedback I do get, which I'm really proud of in a way, is that I am the same as I am online because I'm not trying to be anything else. And some people might think, oh yeah, you're really confident, but I don't know if you're exactly like that online. I'm like, no, I try to really base myself in authenticity because I think it would be way too exhausting to be anything else.
Oh, well, first of all, I applaud you. I just want to applaud you as a teacher, because just like sort of opening your students up, and even if it's a finite, if you touch one person and give them the confidence to try something new, try something hard, and just recognize. And I love the fact, like I'm just imagining myself, I always struggled to be in these classroom environments, moving my bodies, because if they went left, I'd go right. I just didn't, it didn't all work for me. It wasn't easy for me. And if I had had a teacher who said, hey, everybody's feeling the same way, you just sort of broke the ice right in that that simple commentary, but really making, as a teacher, making people feel confident in their self-expression or helping them feel confident in their self-expression is such a gift. And I was going to ask you
Yeah.
about, I was going to ask you about the persona of Peachy Skater online and the human of Demi Jenkins, Peachy Skater in the classroom. And I love the fact that you said that I'm the same person. And I think that's a really remarkable to be able to carry that because it is hard wearing these multiple personas, if you will. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that at all?
Yeah, it's been a very natural progression. I very much get people saying to me all the time that they love my branding, and I laugh at that sentence because I'm like, none of this is branding. It's actually just me living out my truest colors, and it's very much it's yeah, the brand is just me, is basically. And I've very much grown into the brand as such. I wouldn't say that I was my most confident self when I first started, but it's given me a pathway and a platform to grow into that, which has been really beautiful. And I do want to, as far as like where I see myself heading in this, because I definitely see this as like I'm not at my end point by any means. I'm on this beautiful journey of evolution, and I continue to grow and learn from all the people I meet. And I'm really excited for the future to open up a little bit more about, yeah, the messier side of artistic journey. I think I want to open up my creative process a little bit more with people, and I think that would be really interesting. I'm still figuring out exactly how to present that, but my current inspiration is to get myself a little bit more present on YouTube. Because it's a place where I can present longer form content and have a little bit more time, like this, really, to sit and have a conversation with people in a way. Even though it's more one-sided, I can get into the nitty-gritty details of my take on life or where I've come from and my journey and what I'm learning. And I think a lot of I'm just skipping back a little bit actually. What a lot of what I have done in my process of this is I initially niched myself. I initially went, I'm Peachy Skater. This is who I am. And that was very specific niche. And I've basically spent especially the last 2 years, 1 to 2 years, really kind of unniching because I am not a niche. Like well, if there is a niche, it's just me. It's who I am and it's what I'm doing. There's a lot of talk around, oh, for social media, you need to be a niche. You need to make sure you've got your strong niche. And I understand that that works for the algorithm and everything like that. But because my platform is so based in me, I'm not an algorithm. My art doesn't need to be necessarily put through that. And so I very much treat my Peachy Skater account as an art journal. It is wherever I'm feeling at the time is what I'm going to present. And I want to keep opening up that space to more ideas, but I'm also slowly not training, but like getting my audience, I suppose, used to the fact that you're going on the journey with me as to what I'm discovering. It's not about, I'm not curating this journey for what I think you need to see. You're witnessing a messy artist discover whatever she needs to discover. And sometimes it's going to be lows, sometimes it's going to be highs. And that's the beauty of the journey. And I think I want to open up, yeah, that a little bit more just within different aspects. Obviously, I have a really creative platform on Instagram, but I think that on other platforms, I can present a little differently. TikTok is another place where you can be a little messy or a bit more raw. And I think that that's kind of what I'm trying to open up at the moment. Maybe a bit more of my like funny side, because I do have a little bit of like, yeah, a little bit of a sense of humor in certain aspects that are, in certain areas. And so I can use that with TikTok. And then my YouTube, I could get into, yeah, talk for the people that are interested in hearing about my creative process and getting inspired by it and learning about the accessibility behind it, I think. I think people feel like radical creativity, I would say, is a little bit far away. It's like, oh, I could never do what you do. I could never do that. And I'm like, actually, you could. We are creative beings after all. I feel that we all have creativity in us and it's all very varying spectrums. It's in different places, different inspirations, different levels. And it's actually just about tapping in and listening to where that inspiration's coming from and not being afraid to it is listening to your gut, but it's also like you've got to catch the inspiration too, and you've got to be able to show up for it. If you've got an idea that pops through your head and you go, oh, that's a good idea. And if you don't actually like, follow through with it, it's going to leave you and it's going to go past you, which sometimes is completely appropriate because you don't have time to and you're focused on something else. But you've got to notice that those ideas that flit through your mind, if you're saying to yourself, "Oh, I can't do that," or "I don't think it's possible," that's your limiting beliefs. You've got the capability of making things happen, but it's about following those instincts to just take a step forward in a direction that may feel scary at the start.
Taking people on your journey. I love the fact that you described it. I am not curating and creating content to fit other people. I am taking them on my personal journey. And I think what's beautiful about that is it allows you to really express yourself authentically and move in. And, this whole journey, it's so interesting. You seem to, the way you've described it is it's been a process. It's sort of organically unfolded. I mean, to have such a strong thing. And I would say I agree with whoever said your brand is phenomenal. But I also like the fact, and I think it's wonderful that you said, I'm a human, I'm not an algorithm, and this is me showing up. I am the niche. You are the niche. You are the person, the human behind this. I mean, I could talk to you forever about this. I'm curious if there's anything you want to sort of share before we close out.
I think definitely, I mean, I've already talked about the YouTube. That's definitely a platform I'm really wanting to just absolutely get onto at the moment. And so I think keep your eyes peeled for a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff that I've got ideas in the work. I'm grabbing my inspiration currently and I'm trying to follow where it's leading me. I've got lots of ideas about developing a product that I want to sell. I'm looking at even things like I'm actually considering a little bit of a name change at the moment too. Not too far away. Peachy's still staying. I think Peachy is exactly me, but something that I'm playing with. So there's a lot of beautiful, very intentional changes happening with what I'm doing at the moment, and lots of exciting things happening that I feel I'm just sowing the seeds for right now. So I don't know, just I think come into my journey and come along for the ride and be a part of my community is like something I would love to say because it's a really beautiful community of like-minded people that are all discovering their inspiration and creativity. And I feel privileged to be a part of it. Actually, that's a really interesting thing. Last night, I got asked this question by one of the roller skaters, and they said to me, do you feel, it was specifically about skating, but it was like, do you feel a responsibility as an artist of your stature or of your audience, I suppose? Do you feel responsibility in that? And I thought about it for a while and I said, yeah, you know what? Maybe 2 years ago, I would have said yes to that. But I actually don't feel responsibility surrounding it anymore. I feel nothing but privilege. I feel privileged to be in this space and be able to represent creative people and showcasing a creative lifestyle lived out loud, really. It's so cliche to say, but it is legitimately what I feel like I'm doing. And it's a privilege that I get to teach people. It's not my duty. I don't have to. And if I ever feel like I don't want to or it's not resonating with me, I won't because I only want people to learn from me if I'm in the space to learn, like to teach them. So it's very much a space that I feel super privileged to have stumbled upon. I've basically been able to curate my own audience. I am a performer and I was struggling to fit into a specific industry, and I've decided to create my own platform and my own audience, basically. And it's been the most freeing, gorgeous thing that has ever happened to me. And I've not only, to myself and I'm learning about that, but I'm also like introducing my friends to that too, my friends that are in the industry. And, there's a few people I've collaborated with lately that have been like, wow, I didn't realize how accessible it was to just get up and create like you do. Like you have the audacity to just go and make the thing. And I'm like, yeah, like because I've learned to have that audacity. It's the audacity to be bold and to make my imagination come to life. And that's a huge part of my message is like have the audacity to bring your dreams to reality. I surprise myself all the time. I hadn't posted dance content on my account until a year ago. And I had only posted skating content. I was terrified of posting dance content because I was like, this is not what people know me about of. And suddenly I thought, okay, I'm gonna test the waters here and try something new without thinking too much about it. And it was just like, it just made sense. And people were like, yep, we like this because you can see how much you enjoy it. And yeah, it's like people followed when I wasn't trying to curate it too much, but just have fun.
I have to just say, just as someone, as your audience, if you will, I found you. I happened upon you, and then I just watched you. And I'm like, wow, it's just so inspired. It's so natural. You have figured out who you are in the process. And you, whether you're on your skates or on your feet, your movement, it's all about your self-expression and being your creative self. And I think it's just so beautiful. This is your platform today to give a message to women all around the world, of all cultures, of all backgrounds, of all ages. What do you want to leave them with?
I think allow yourself to have the freedom to be bold. I think not tying yourself down to the restricted feeling of feeling like you don't have space to be who you need to be, but allowing yourself to be open to it is the best advice I could give. It's following those little tiny voices that tell you to do something or tell you to be a little extra in a moment. Wearing that bold outfit if you need, playing that song that you love while you're walking. It's that energy of romanticizing your life, but take those extra measures and like live in that magic, because what are we if we aren't magical creative beings?
Congratulations on finding that voice and finding yourself in such a bold, colorful way. Demi, how can people reach you if they want to reach out to you?
Absolutely. So I'm on TikTok. I'm on basically every platform you can think of. I'm on TikTok and Instagram, Threads. I'm on X. I'm on Blue Sky, and I'm on YouTube, all as Peachy Skater with two R's at the end. I like to say I'm Peachy Skate.
That's really cute. But thank you so much for getting under the hood with me. And again, like, just love the work you're doing and love the way you show up. Thank you.
So much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Under the Sisterhood. If you haven't already, please give us a quick rating and review on Apple or Spotify. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn so you can hear from more amazing women. This podcast is created and hosted by Under the Sisterhood LLC and Elizabeth Elfenbein, produced by Elizabeth Elfenbein and Matt Butler, and edited by Matt Butler. The music is by Ayla Schaefer. Her song, Rose.